Welcome to the Meditate with Rishi channel, where I bring to you the teachings and practices of the ancient sages so you can create a life with more peace, purpose, and power. So today, we are going to be exploring how to choose a meditation technique, or what meditation technique is right for you, right? So if you have just begun meditation, or you have been practicing for a while, one thing that you realize is really important is sticking to one practice so that you can go deep into that practice. And if we keep jumping, technique shopping from practice to practice, then we are not allowing ourselves to really go to the depth that we need to, okay? So today we're going to explore how to know what is right for you, how to choose a practice, okay? So before we do that, it's going to help you to understand, what do we mean by meditation? Because when we use the English word meditation, really we're talking about three things from the science of yoga. So the first one is dharana, second one is dhyana, and third one is samadhi, okay? So dharana is concentration, dhyana is meditation, and samadhi is total absorption or unity. Okay, so I'm not going to go into that in depth now. I've actually done a video on this called The True Meaning of Meditation. I'll link it down below if you want to have a look at it. So from these three, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, really the only one that we can do or control is the first one, dharana, which is concentration. Okay, the other two, the dhyana and samadhi, the meditation and total absorption, we cannot do them. They are states that occur naturally, spontaneously, like sleep. You can't control falling asleep. You just have to put the right conditions in place and then you fall asleep naturally, right? So really, when we ask what is the right meditation technique for me, really what we're asking is, what should I be concentrating on? What is my object of concentration? That's what we're asking, okay? Now, bear in mind that the whole point of meditation, right, reaching or attaining samadhi, total unity, in samadhi, essentially, I've not reached there yet, okay, but the point is that you are becoming one with the divinity within you. You are touching that innermost spark in you. And realizing that is your true nature and becoming one with that divine spark. That is ultimately the point, right? So if that's the case, then if our goal is to reach that divinity, then our object of concentration should lead us there in some way, right? It should remind us of that divine spark in us. So then the question becomes, what reminds you of that divine spark? So we should not be asking the question, what meditation technique is right for me? Really, the question is, what is my perception of divinity? How do I perceive divinity? What does divinity mean to me, right? And this will differ based on your, basically, your upbringing, your religion, your tradition, even within, let's say the Indian tradition. There are so many different beliefs. And there is no right or wrong. Everything is right? If it works for you, then that's right. So really the question we should be asking is, how do we actually, figure out what divinity means to us? So what I'm going to do today is basically explore with you the different ways in which people perceive divinity and meditation techniques within those areas of belief, essentially. So this should give you a very good idea of how, or what you can actually practice, right? It should just feel right. It should be something that you like because you believe in it. Because it's only if you like it, it's only if you like something that your mind will actually focus on it, right? And it's only if you focus on it for prolonged period, prolonged concentration, prolonged dharana, then you will reach meditation and samadhi, right? Because meditation and samadhi are nothing but higher levels of concentration. It's just how long can you keep one pointed attention on one object? Ultimately, that's what it comes to, okay? So how do people perceive divinity? Okay, so we're going to go through that, but for the objects of meditation, just note this, right? Like roughly speaking, there's going to be one of these 4 or 5 things that you can focus on. So either it's a sound or a mantra, okay, which I'm sure you've heard. It could be a visual, so an inner visual, something that you are visualizing. That could be an object of focus. It could be an outer visual, something you're focusing on outside, like an idol of a deity or a candle flame or a yantra on the wall, right? And lastly, which is the breath or the sensations. So it's one of these 4 things. You go to any tradition, any technique, it's basically one of these 4 things that you're focusing on. But now let's get a bit more specific into how to actually pick what's right for you, okay? So in terms of how people perceive divinity, I've categorized it into 4 areas. Now, there may be more, right? But this is a general classification. So when you are, using this for your own example, please apply some kind of personal preference to this, because it's impossible for me to fit divinity on one whiteboard. So please, use your own personal preference and trying to figure out, this, maybe I'll mix it up like this. Use your own intuition and preference, essentially, okay? But let's get to it. So the first way, this is in no order. The first way that people perceive divinity, some people like to perceive God with like a personal relationship, God with a form, right? So this is very common in the Indian tradition. You have the deities like Krishna, Rama, Hanuman, the goddesses, Lakshmi, Durga, etc. Or Jesus, right? An image of Jesus, right? So if your relationship with divinity is a god or a goddess that has a form, then you would fit into this category, okay? Now, in this category, what are the types of meditation that you can do? So it's very simple, right? These deities or these aspects of God usually have a mantra associated with them, right? With like Om Nam Shivaya, for example. They will have a visual associated with them. So they have a form, right? So there's a visual thing you can focus on, maybe an external, like an idol or a picture that you look at. And then you try to bring this into your mind, essentially, to visualize it internally, right? So the point being that in this, you have so many options. You can choose to just focus on a mantra. You can choose to just focus on a visual. You can choose to focus on both, so you can visualize and say the mantra. Or you could focus on basically saying the mantra in sync with your breath, right? Or you could do all 3. Mantra, visual, and breath. That is like complete focus, right? So you have all these options. So what you want to do is you want to essentially see, okay, this is my deity that I like, or the aspect of God that I like. So what are the mantras associated with this? Take the simple mantra and begin practicing that, and then see how you feel. Do you like to just repeat the mantra, or do you like to repeat it with the breath? Is it something you can sync with the breath? Or do you like to say the mantra and visualize the deity? What do you like? It has to be something you like, okay? So that covers this aspect. You actually have so many options over here of how you can do it and make it yours, make it your own, essentially, okay? The second way that we perceive the divine is formless. So it's not an idol, it is formless, essentially, okay? So in the formless aspect, if this is your belief that the divine is formless, then the ways that you can meditate on this formless aspect is, it could be a mantra, because it may be formless, so there's no visual, but you've given it a name, right? Like Om or Ram, right? Names for the all-pervading, divinity, right? Allah is another name. So here, if that is your belief, you will already know what the name is. So you can meditate upon that name. You can meditate upon the qualities of that formless, right? This is where reading about that comes, because when you know what qualities you're meditating upon, then you can use the name and think of those qualities. That can be a meditation on its own, okay? So again, here, the mantra or the form, whatever you're using, can be synced with the breath. So you have some options to really refine your concentration, okay? Now, some people perceive divinity simply as energy. So there is no being, specific being out there, right? All the energy of the universe is divinity itself. This is also true, right? So how do you do that? So one, you can use mantra here, right? Like the mantra Om. The mantra Om is it is believed that it is the sound that started the universe, right? What created the Big Bang, essentially. So first, if there was nothing, there was a spark of energy that created something, and that spark of energy is denoted by the syllable Om, okay? That is something very vast. I've done a video on that as well, so you can check that out on the channel. But Om is possible. Other ways of using energy are the energy centers in our body, so our chakras, meditating on the chakras, right? You've probably heard of this. So this is something, obviously you'd have to learn how to do this and refine your concentration, because the chakras are subtle. It's not like focusing on your finger, which you can see and touch. The chakra you cannot see and touch. You have to have a really refined concentration to be able to identify where is the chakra and feel the sensation of the energy in that energy center. But this is something you can do, right? And again, here you can use the breath. So you can use the breath with the mantra, you can use the breath when you are essentially doing the dharana, the concentration on the chakras, right? So you can see the breath is everywhere. The breath can be used and should be used in each and every meditation. It's a great focal point, okay? So I hope these make sense. Now the last one is for the people that have no particular belief. They are neutral. There's nothing wrong with that either, okay? So if you are neutral, if you have not really given much thought to how do I perceive the divine, then no problem. That's totally fine, right? In fact, in the Buddhist tradition, at least initially, basically whether God exists or not is not really that important. What is important is freedom, liberation, reaching the goal, getting into that samadhi state, right? So here you have objects or meditation techniques like using the breath, simple breath awareness meditation. Don't think that because this is simple, it does not go deep. No, because we're not talking about just the outer breath that you can hear and listen to. The more and more you focus on your breath, you will realize that it's no longer the physical breathing you're focusing on. It is actually the subtle breath that takes you within, penetrating the layers of your being and then taking you into altered states. So just the breath can be used, okay? Vipassana is a technique you may have heard of, which uses the breath and sensations to focus on. Neutral technique. Yoga Nidra. On my channel, I've done an entire series of Yoga Nidra meditations. They are basically a relaxation of the physical, mental, and emotional systems using mantra, using breath, using visualizations, but nothing to do with any deity or religion, so to speak. So these are also neutral, right? Zazen, neutral technique. Candle flame meditation. So this is an example of a meditation where the object of focus is outside. So you are essentially open, your eyes are open, and you're focusing on the candle flame. It could be something else, but this is a very neutral object. And it is a symbol for the light, for the self within, which is why the candle flame is a great technique, object for meditation, okay? So here we have it, right? The steps essentially are, the question you're asking is not what is the right meditation technique for me, but how do I perceive divinity, right? So do I have a personal God that I like a Ram or Hanuman or Jesus? Or is divinity formless for me, essentially? Or do I believe that the divine is simply the energy, the universe, the energy, right? Or do I have no particular belief, right? Am I just neutral, right? That does not matter that much to me. What matters is reaching liberation, the freedom from suffering, which is the ultimate point of all of this, right? So the point I'm trying to make is that all of this is just on the first aspect, the dharana, the concentration, what your mind is going to focus upon. It actually does not matter what you are focusing upon. It does not matter, okay? What matters is that you do it consistently, and you build up concentration to such a level that you can move from dharana to dhyana and samadhi, to the higher states of consciousness, essentially. Any of these will take you there. So the only important thing is that it has to be something that you like. It has to be something that you like. Don't go for things that you think are cool. I see a lot right now that people are reading about, on the internet, about Kriya Yoga or Chakra Dharana, right? Chakra meditation. And because it sounds very esoteric and cool, they're like, this is real stuff. This is what I want to do. That's not true. that is not true, okay? The important thing is it has to be something that you like. And it is essentially the depth that you can go into that will take you there. I'll bring again the quote from Bruce Lee, where he says, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times," because that is mastery. Pick any one that you like, experiment, but pick one. And go with it, and it will take you where you need to be. Okay? So that is it, how to choose a technique. Now, I appreciate that this is a kind of basic, understanding of this. If you want to go more in depth, if you're still confused, if you want my advice, right? You can book a consultation with me on the website at meditatewithrishi.com, and we can have a chat and really go deeper into this if you want. But I really hope this helps. Thank you for listening. Namaste.